We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. Voter fraud. We have put together voter fraud. We have put together voter fraud, the most extensive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Well, that was confidence inspiring. Oh, we're going to cover some of Mr. Biden's mishaps here shortly. Welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. I'm glad you guys are here with me live. If you're at the thepreparedmind.club, it's $2. $2 Monday through Friday. We're live every day. If you're on Subscribestar, it's $2. Your membership helps keep the channel up, pay for servers, etc., yada, yada. Ain't nothing free anymore. No free rides, America. Now, speaking of that, no free rides, no rights. This is a great topic. And I'm going to ask this question at the very beginning. And unlike Jen Psaki, former lying White House, big mouth lying sack of POS, when she would say, well, we're going to have to circle back to that, she never circled back to nothing. I will circle back. I start with the question, are you willing to be a martyr? Let's start with that. And then I go to the story and the commentary and your questions and comments. Well, CNN, folks, a CNN host. They used to call them journalists and news reporters. Now they're a host. Well, last time I checked, a host gets me a table at a restaurant. Anyways, the CNN host asked the governor of New Mexico about her gun rights violations. Read the state constitution live on the air, embarrassing her. But I think that this could be part of a plan, right? Uman touched on it yesterday with me, talking about some other people's ideas that, well, maybe this is another short game move that has long-term effects. So let's get into it. And today, Mr. Uman and also Orlando brought up pieces and parts of the topic I want to share with you. Will the New Mexico governor and law enforcement agencies, maybe even the federal government, the FBI, use video and photographic evidence to identify and round up those who protested the governor's new executive demand that you don't carry your weapons in Albuquerque? Will they round them up, any of those who protested? Let's keep Jane Dixon's comments quiet for now. Anyways, will they round up protesters, right, who wanted their Second Amendment rights, how do we say this, respected? If they round up people saying, well, we got you on video and on camera standing around with your weapons after the godlike governor, who's actually a grisly witch, after she said no and you showed up, we're just going to arrest you now. Will those arrests, folks, whether they're middle of the day snatch and grab, throw you in a van, or maybe knock your door down at a pre-dawn raid, will that be used to intimidate and scare Americans even further who would dare to protest tyranny at a state level? Remember January 6th, that was a national level. Well, this was down at the state. Will they start pulling stunts like this at the state? Will this same January 6th technique be used and then call Albuquerque an insurrection against the state governor? Are they going to hold those Americans without trial? No charges, kept in political prisons as a fear tactic to be used in a psychological operation against Americans, you? So, if they're going to start doing this, will you allow yourself to be arrested? I'm getting back to the question. I will ask again, if you are surrounded in public or raided at home, are you going to allow yourself to be arrested, to be beaten by cops, abused by guards, and then sodomized? That's right, sodomized by prisoners in jail, to be denied a lawyer, legal representation, and a speedy public trial, destroyed by the media, starved by the jailers, and made ill with unsanitary conditions that they create for you as a prisoner, only to be finally forced to admit to crimes that didn't happen, suffer public lies about you and your reputation and your family is destroyed, and get charged and found guilty of fake crimes and then sent to a real prison for years. And this is all being done to satisfy these sick, perverted, power-mad political assholes and the complicit and more than willing police and prison guard sellouts. You going to allow yourself to be arrested and possibly face that the way the January 6th protesters? Hey, it's your choice, not mine. You live in America. You want to be free and stand up for your rights, or are you just going to turn in your guns? It's your choice, not mine. And so I bring you back to the very first question. Are you willing to be a martyr? Do you want to be a martyr? Because if this happens to you, if you live in Albuquerque or somewhere near there, if you protest, guess what? The first people that are rounded up and thrown in jail, they're going to be martyred. Or refuse to go to jail. You'll be martyred. You'll be killed. And no one will believe your story and no one will give a shit. You're going to die unloved, and the media will destroy you, and the government will make your reputation just look like sewer trash. You're going to be a martyr with no followers. Is that what you're willing to do? When you say, I won't be arrested because I know what you're going to do to me in jail. I don't feel like having my butt destroyed by a bunch of criminals. I don't feel like being abused by the state. I don't feel like spending years in prison just to spend more years in prison. If you want to take that stand, understand what is going on. You're either going to be thrown in jail and treated that way, or you're going to stand up and fight back and get killed and be martyred. See where we're at on this? Everyone who wants to talk tough, it's shit sandwich or shit sandwich. It just depends on how hungry you are. I really think that that's the position that we're facing. What do you think? Is my little story, this little scenario, is it hyperbole and bullshit? Or is this what's happening on certain levels to certain people? We're hearing about IRS raids. We're hearing about FBI raids. We're hearing about ATF raids. We're hearing about government bureaucracy going after people at all levels of government. People being arrested and charged for free speech violations. Since when does free speech have a limit? Oh, don't worry. Hillary Clinton explained to us. She said, there are limits on free speech, so we're just supposed to buy that. Hillary, thanks. Thanks for clearing that one up. But yeah, really, those are your choices in this world. Hey, look, if you're being arrested by the police, maybe they're just going to take you downtown for some questions. You don't know. Perhaps they will let you call your attorney so you can be properly represented during an interrogation. Maybe you won't be taken into a very quiet, dark back room that has no cameras and have the living shit beaten out of you. Or have your family, your children, your grandchildren threatened, right? That their lives will be made hell, that they'll be destroyed because of you if you don't start kissing up to Uncle Biden's bum. How did they take over Germany in the 1930s? Why did the German people allow Hitler to come to power and take over and do what he did? How was that even possible? That a good, hardworking, logical people, the Germans, noted for their critical thinking, how did they manage to miss the absolutely diabolical Nazi party that came to power, they didn't miss it, folks. They just didn't stand up to it. But, folks, standing up to it means several things. It means shit going bad real fast. And if you're involved in it, your life is over one way or the other. You get J6'd or you get George Floyded. I can't breathe. Yeah, because you're perforated like a block of Swiss cheese. Doesn't sound very appetizing, does it? Being a hero and a patriot sure sounds painful either way it happens. And that can be painful for years or maybe just for a couple of minutes while you bleed out on the sidewalk. Or bleed out in your bed because that's where they caught you when they beat in your door. Does standing up to tyranny sound romantic? I don't think so. Not in the least. We all do glamorize it, though, in our heads, though, when we think about the revolution and don't fire till you see the whites of their eyes. Well, that was said because the colonists, the colonial army, they didn't have much ammunition. So they needed to make sure what ammunition they had counted. So they stood in front of their oppressors. They stood in the face of the tyrant's foot soldiers and waited until they saw the whites of their eyes and then fired. How many good men fell on that day? How many good men fell waiting to be told it's good, it's time to shoot? I'm not telling anyone to shoot, and I am not telling anyone to violate any statutes or rules. But I do know the law for myself. What a topic, huh? I could go on, folks. There's a lot more to this. Are you going to be a martyr? Or are you going to be something less than that? I don't fucking know what to call. A victim. Everyone who's tied into the January 6th has been victimized. It's not a pretty world. That took all the fucking fun out of it, right? Thanks, John. Damn it, you ruined it. You absolutely ruined all of our daydreams and wannabe hero monument building thoughts. Yeah, man, we're all going to just kick some. It's not going to be pretty, folks. But what I can guarantee is that it's going to happen. Either we all bend the knee, or we all bend over, or we all bite the bullet. So, on that good news, let me move forward with this. Speaking of Hitler, the world is giving up on Zelensky. So Zelensky is turning to his own people in his focus and drive to continue his war against Russia in the special military operation, the SMO. Zelensky is now calling on the old, the sick and injured, the crippled, and even women for combat. That's right. Zelensky's calling on Ukrainian women. And he's telling everyone they have a long conflict ahead. They've only been fighting for, a year and a half. Yeah, that was a head scratcher. A year and a half. And they're down to women, sick, crippled, and old men. This is a Hitler-esque. There's your Hitler circle back tie-in. Callback. Jen Psaki, go to school and learn how to do it. This is your Hitler-esque level of desperation, folks. The world is giving up. The world is sick of it. They're running out of troops there. And it indicates how close Ukraine is to having to quit, to give up. I mean, literally, what are they going to do? Put cardboard cutouts of soldiers and say, we're still fighting. We haven't given up. At what point? At what point is Zelensky supposed to give up and stop committing acts of terror? Or will they just say, fine, you take those eastern provinces that were formerly Ukraine and are now independent federal Russian Federation states? If that's the case, and Zelensky continues to attack them with terror attacks, can Russia then, in a NATO-like move, say, if you attack any Russian Federation state, you've attacked us all and we'll respond? Will Russia then be authorized to use more powerful weapons. In other words, if Ukraine is being forced to quit because they're out of people who are willing to fight, will Russia use nuclear weapons and the threat of them to make Zelensky come to the table and sign peace treaties, aka a surrender, quit, done? Or, folks, will the West slip Zelensky a nuclear weapon and allow him to use that? There's a rumor out there, and thank you, Orlando, that a nuclear weapon has had its, how do I put this? GPS, its location beacon, turned off. It's just a rumor. It could be the Russians have had a GPS weapon turned off, or NATO has turned off their GPS on some system. And could a nuclear weapon be being smuggled for use in this conflict? What do you think of that? If we can't win with conventional weapons and we're running out of people, let's use nukes. Hey, that sounds like a great plan, does it not? Well, I don't think it sounds like a great plan, folks. Government lies, and they lie an awful lot. In fact, to give you a flavor of how that works, in Hawaii, the attorney general for that state has decided to release information to the public regarding the Maui wildfire. But they're probably going to hold back on stuff to, quote, protect the integrity of the investigation. That's right. They have to withhold information about why and how and everything else, because we wouldn't want, it's an investigation on a fire. Does that mean there's witnesses that could be threatened? Witnesses that could be bribed? I mean, what is one charred car gonna bear false witness against another? What are they hiding? What I think it means is whatever evidence of incompetence the state has, they will need to keep it hidden from the rest of us. That's what they're doing, is hiding evidence. They want to tell us something about it, but we have to protect the integrity of the investigation. Rocks, charred trees, houses. What are they protecting? What integrity of the investigation would be affected if the attorney general came out and said, well, it was the electric company. Well, it was an arsonist. Well, what integrity? What are they hiding? Why can't they tell us? It's not like there is a murderer, a mass murderer, and they've been arrested, and now they need to keep things quiet while they gather the rest of their information before witnesses are affected, before jurors are affected. It's all bullshit. It really is, folks. Government lies. That's what they do. Government lies, and it's absolutely incompetent. Get this, folks. You know how bad it is for Biden. They're even talking about Kamala Harris replacing him. Oh, you bet. You bet. 103 House Democrats have called out Biden in an official letter. And it's not what you think. No, folks, the Democrats aren't asking old Joe to step down and resign because he's been caught breaking the law with fake email accounts he used to shake down, extort, and receive bribes while working his son Hunter as his proxy when he was vice president. Allegedly. This, folks, is what Democrats in Congress want in this letter they wrote to the president. More than 100 Democrats in the House of Representatives are begging, asking, demanding that President Joe Biden gives more special privileges and handouts to the immigrants who are here illegally. Yes, folks, they want Joe to screw us even harder, longer, and drier. As our economy dries up, we are supposed to give even more to these people who are here illegally. Fuck you, Democrats. I know Americans who are personally suffering now, And this is the shit that's going on in D.C. Now, I'm sure you've heard, without a doubt, you've heard that McCarthy is talking about impeachment. Well, I think the last straw today was Representative Matt Gaetz, who is a decent Republican from the state of Florida, Republican congressman. He says, you're out of compliance. And he threatened Speaker McCarthy. And yeah, McCarthy is caving. Congressman Matt Gaetz, he threatened to have Speaker McCarthy, that one person in either party can have a vote brought up, a motion to vacate vote. Anyone can call for it. That's one of the conditions of him being allowed to be Speaker of the House. I'm going to ask you this, Matt Gaetz. Why the fuck didn't you threaten this before? Why did you wait months after all this information has come out about Biden? Why now? Some people might say, well, it's the best time to do it because it's prior to the serious election campaign season that is just about to kick off. Impeaching Biden now is perfect timing. Fuck the political timing. This country is being crippled by these bastards. It is an insult and embarrassment to have Biden in the White House. Kamala's no better. But this is what he did. He finally did it. Matt Gaetz came out and made this threat. He said, on this very floor in January, the whole world witnessed a historic contest for the House Speaker. You know what that historic was? Is how many no votes, how many losses Speaker McCarthy got before he finally caved and gave into these, shall we say, requirements. Under the new House rules, just one member of Congress can put up a motion to vacate and force a vote on removing the Speaker of the House. And it would only take a very small majority, a simple majority, to remove McCarthy. McCarthy knew this, and he's had so much power, influence, and everything else that he's held him off this far. So Gaetz, right, decided to make this little threat, and lo and behold, folks, Speaker McCarthy, he has now ordered an impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden and his antics. No, how about his criminality? How about his treacherous decisions, his treason? Yeah, is McCarthy bending? Folks, don't believe it for a second. Kevin do-nothing, sellout, POS, Rhino McCarthy is not bending. He's playing a game, a political game. This move to open an impeachment inquiry is to pacify the members of Congress who have been screaming, to pacify us Americans and lull us into relaxing. Don't worry, folks. McCarthy is going to sabotage any impeachment inquiry. He's going to drag his feet. He's going to help cover up. He's going to close down witnesses and testimony. He's going to shortcut the process and get out of it. And then he's going to threaten and shit on anyone who has confronted him, including Matt Gaetz. Remember, folks, McCarthy, Republican leader, screwed Madison Cawthorn in his election by financing Madison Cawthorn's competitor and denying Madison Cawthorn party funds. Why did he do that to Madison Cawthorn? The Army veteran in a wheelchair who was representing his people? It's because Madison Cawthorn was going to expose the drug and sex scandals, the orgies, the political orgies that are happening in Washington, D.C. And that is an ugly, ugly fucking thought. I don't like watching fossils fuck. People like whoever the hell they are in Congress, they're not attractive people. They're getting the certain work done, sure. Do I want to see them having sex or think about it? No. But that's what Madison Cawthorn threatened. He threatened to expose the drug and orgy sex scandals of the elected legislature and bureaucrats. And he's lucky he wasn't killed for threatening to expose them, to expose the entire stinking city. Well, McCarthy shut him up, and maybe that what threat was made. But then he hamstrung him, ruined his chances in the primary. It's called being primaried. And he's gone. That's what McCarthy does. And if the impeachment inquiry, folks, happens, and if it's successful and it comes to a vote, and if they vote and impeach Biden, there isn't a fucking chance in hell that he will be tried and convicted in the Senate. Now, if he did, I would be very proud of both the House and the Senate. And I would trust them that much further, which isn't a fucking molecule's width, if they do that, because it's so obvious. None of them will do anything unless it helps serve themselves. And they're all owned, folks. They're all bought and paid for. You know what? I'm running out of time. This is one here, folks. What Anthony, you know who Anthony is, right? Tony Anthony. I'm going to put his face up.
Was it a mistake in so many states and so many localities to see schools closed as long as they were?
Well, I don't want to use the word mistake.
Well, did we pay too high a price?
You saw his name. You saw his face. It wasn't a mistake. He just admitted to his criminality. I cannot even say the words or we will be silenced and taken off of, well, the internet. Safe and effective. Oh, yeah? You're going to have to go to our Prepared Mind Facebook, preparedmind.club, or Subscribestar to get this article, what he has just admitted to. We're not allowed to say it anymore, folks. We can't say a freaking word because it's coming back. Take a wild guess. There was a fucking hint for you right there. I can't say it, folks. You're going to have to go to Facebook. Facebook may be a membership only. I don't know what Jolene and Uman are doing with that, just because I don't have the mental energy to remember everything. But if you can get on our Facebook, you can go to the club and get information. It won't be private on the club. It should be made available for everybody. Subscribestar members, unless you're a member there, you're not going to see what's being posted. But at the club, I think Jolene can post the link to this story. What Fauci just admitted to today. I am absolutely livid. It's incredible. It's something we've talked about when everybody has had their heart issues. He admitted it. He absolutely admitted it. Now, I'm going to wrap up my half of the show. I sure hope you've got your questions down below, folks. It has hit the fan. Tyranny is taking hold in America. I want you to listen to this. And I want you to share this with everyone else. There's a reporter out there. His name is Owen Schroyer. He has been given 60 days in prison for speech crimes. The Department of Justice, the Attorney General's office, the prosecutor for the federal government says, quote, Schroyer helped create January 6th. His speech, folks, helped create that event. Well, if they can give you 60 days in prison for free speech, why not give you 6 months? If they can give you 6 months for a non-crime, surely they can give you 6 years or 60 years or 600 years. What's the fucking difference? It's just a number. When it's not a crime, it's not a crime. But the government believes they've proven the case. that Owen, a reporter, not, folks, a political leader, a militant, a so-called patriotic warrior. No, he's not a politician. He's not a political candidate. He's not a multi-billionaire like Elon Musk. He is a reporter. And they are saying that he caused the January 6th event. Let me put it to you this way, folks. If Owen, a chicken shit little reporter, I've heard of him before, but only because he got arrested, not because he was a great reporter and journalist that the world couldn't ignore like Tucker Carlson. But if Owen caused the non-insurrection event of January 6th, then Maxine Waters and Camel Toes 304 Harris caused the 2020 George Floyd riots, and they need some serious fucking prison time because $5 billion in damage was done. That's right. Maxine Waters encouraged it. So did Joe Biden. So did Camel Toes, who was releasing people from jail, making phone calls, supporting the burning, looting, and murdering and torture that people suffered, as well as the destruction of businesses, lives, jobs, and families. Now, I look at things a little different. I'm going to take this, let's look at things a little different even further. So the jury concluded that Owen Schroyer's speech caused this riot. Then what they're saying is that his speech caused the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police to start shooting unarmed people with rubber bullets and launching gas canisters with their gas canister launchers and shooting flashbang grenades into the crowd and sending Americans to the hospital in ambulances and sending Americans to their graves by beating them to death, literally to death. Owen Schroyer caused that because it is well known that the police attacked the people at the protest. Unprovoked, the attack was started because the police didn't like the chanting. And they were under orders that when the order was given, they were going to attack the people at the protest. And people like Ray Epps and other FBI and other federal agents and agents provocateur started acting out violently towards the police to give the appearance that the crowd had started the melee. So if Owen caused the event to happen, then Owen is the one who made the police start their attack. Why was that information not brought up in court? Oh, I'm sure it's because the evidence was not allowed. The video evidence clearly shows it. Or did the prosecutor say, oh, no, that's not how it really went? This is what happens, folks, when they handpick a jury who are not your peers, who are puppets, handmaidens, and bitches for the government, who are political allies, Tories in the kangaroo courtroom antics that are going down in Washington, D.C. I'm going to give you the ultimate callback now. Are you willing to be a martyr? A nameless martyr? How many men were martyred in the Revolutionary War against Britain who fought, were shot, suffered, died, and their names are not remembered and memorialized? I'm glad the Vietnam War, folks, all those men and women that died there are memorialized in Washington, D.C. The American revolutionaries, don't shoot until you see the whites of their eyes. Our ship has been sunk. I've only begun to fight, and that is if I don't fucking drown before I make it back to shore. This is what we got, folks. There's going to be a lot of nameless martyrs out there if Americans are willing to stand up. If and only if. And it's not going to be pretty. I don't expect a lot of us old, fat, tired dudes to be out there swinging clubs. I don't think it's going to happen. Anyways, I'm being instructed that I need to move on and get to the inner circle with you guys. Here we are, clearing the board for your questions, your thoughts. We've got a lot coming from you guys today, a lot coming. So let's get into it. Charles Gentry said, my son is a man in his own right. My family doesn't need me. I did my job right. Whatever excuse you have to have is on you. Whoa, let's go back on that a little bit. Wasn't there yet. Whatever excuse you have to have is on you. My rights are worth my life. No excuses. That's why only 3% of the population fought the British with only 20% support, and they won. If you have an excuse, then fine. I don't allow myself such a luxury, Charles. Then you, sir, sound like you're willing to be a martyr if they come after you. I'll be looking for you in the newspaper because it's happening. It started. That old man in Utah, pretty much evidence. They shot his ass dead. The young injured military veteran, we still don't know why. We have no clue why they busted into his house and killed him. They won't give an answer. I'm just getting ready for the next phase, folks. I'm just getting ready to start reporting. Martyr down. Anyways, Charles, there you are. Thank you very much for throwing your thought up on the board. Once again, I do not condone or promote or glamorize violence or suggest anyone break any statutes or rules. I'm just letting you know this is what I see happening. Mikey G says, the older you get, the sting of death becomes less fearful. And there are things worth dying for. Thank you, Mikey. It sounds like I struck a chord with a few of you guys out there. I'm glad I did because that was my intent, to make you guys think and think about it. Are you willing to be a martyr? Because otherwise, you're either going to be on the knee, and who knows what's going to be in your face for you to kiss, or you're going to be on your knees wondering why your chest hurts so much because there's holes in it. All right. Thank you, Mikey G. Chin Music says, nope, wouldn't want to be one of the first couple uninvited guests to go through the door at my place. Chin Music. Listen, folks, I don't expect any of you to say, you know what, you're right, John, fuck it. They can have my guns. I'd rather live. And I did tell the story, or at least create the scenario by which I described a 10-mile road yesterday. And you put 20 police at one end of it, or 20 private citizens, or 20 mercenaries from the United Nations. I don't care who it is. They start at one end of the street, 10-mile street, and start trying to collect guns at doors. By the time they get a few doors down, the guns are going to be coming out with the wrong end pointing at the confiscators. Let's stop calling them cops and call them confiscators. That way, people understand this isn't an anti-law enforcement or an anti-police or an anti-constabulary thing. It is about confiscation. Confiscators are going to get blasted to pieces. There's a lot of first couple of uninvited guests through the door. And that's just it. I think the way you said that, Chin, is completely proper. When they come through the door, it's not going to be one or two. I've talked about this in the past with an unnamed and I'll call him anonymous source who said, look, they come through your door, you're done. If you resist, you're just done. You're dead. And that may have been what happened to that veteran, the young veteran who had a pre-dawn raid and he was shot to death. It was the FBI. Perhaps he put up some resistance. Perhaps he lunged for a gun. Perhaps he went into his closet. Perhaps he went over to his gun cabinet or gun safe and they shot him. You're not going to live. It's not going to be one or two agents kicking in the door. It's going to be an entire array of them. There's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 20. You're not coming out alive. When they kick down your door, you either submit and go get sodomized or you're not leaving. If you take one or two, that plays into the numbers game I described. Well, at first there was 20, and at the next house there was 18. And at the next house there was 17, and the next house there was 15, and in the next house there was 14. At the next house, there was 12. And before they got a mile down the street, there wasn't one of the confiscators left. Interesting discussion. All right, Chin Music, thank you, brother. Semper Fi, keep on rocking. Who do we have up next? Orlando. He says, in my opinion, being a post-January Sixer doesn't mean anything anymore. You don't have to have been there to become a martyr. We are all martyrs already, whether we know it or not. Now, folks, I haven't heard any of this from Orlando, so these are new thoughts that we get to discover. He says, we need to realize at some point, talking will not do it anymore, and we will have to fight. They want our deaths either way, so we'll have to fight back hard or we'll die trying to live. I think that is the ultimate sentiment. That's the sentiment, is we now know where we're at. Regardless of the Second Amendment, which says, let's see, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Pretty straightforward. The courts have been ruling at the state, federal, and Supreme Court level saying the Second Amendment says what the Second Amendment says, and the Second Amendment means what the Second Amendment means. The government does not have the authority to take away weapons, magazines, or ammunition. The people have a right, and it is recognized, and it has been shoved in the government's face in the form of the Second Amendment. Yet, politicians continue to push their bullshit. What does that mean? They, as Orlando has said, are wanting us dead, one way or the other, ultimately, eventually. And they don't seem to be as patient as they used to be, thinking, well, it'll be another 2 or 3 generations before they finally get around to wanting to exterminate us. I was a kid. I was 14 when I thought, there's a chance this could happen in my lifetime. Hey, it's still my lifetime, and it's fucking happening. Very interesting shit. Very interesting shit. Let us move on, Mr. Uman. Let's go. We got more. I know it. Mr. X steps up, and in his avatar, I'll make sure everyone understands that his profile picture there shows a dude with a pistola in action. Looks like the slide is coming back and either ejecting or it's locked. And yeah, there's a man of action there. He says, John, it's all about the rules for thee, but not for me. Just look what's going on with New Mexico's health emergency to take away the Second Amendment. I don't think so. And the attack on the First Amendment, is that it for Mr. X? Yeah, I don't think so. And the attack on the First Amendment. The attacks are on both. When I was a kid, I was much more impetuous, hot-headed, and certain I was going to live forever and that I was bulletproof because I'd been shot many times and lived. Yeah, I lived. Shot at, hit with ricochets. You start thinking you're bulletproof when that shit happens. Anyways, here's the deal. I never thought the First Amendment was half as important as the Second. And I am now discovering how important the First Amendment is. Now, how do I say this? You can't win an argument with a gun. And you can't win a gunfight with an argument. Let me clarify. Allow me in this too crazy of a Tuesday. You can't win an argument with a gun. What you're doing is using force to defeat and use the principle of might makes right in that situation. You're not winning the argument. You're just killing your enemy. You can't win an argument with a gun, but you will certainly come out victorious in the conflict. Now, conversely, you can't win a gunfight with an argument. If you know you're going to be in a gunfight, talking till you're blue in the face isn't going to do a fucking bit of good. And you can't win a gunfight with an argument if you're not allowed to argue anymore. You're just silent there, standing in front of someone with a gun. Anyways, I think that little compare and contrast is another unique Prepared Mind Network first Explain that to someone. I dare you. I triple dog dare you. I know I broke the rules by skipping double dog, but going right to triple dog is say that to someone. Say it. You can't win an argument in a gunfight, and you can't win a gunfight with an argument. And watch people's heads spin. They'll come unscrewed and fall on the fucking floor. Make them think about it. The First and Second Amendment, you need them both. When you get done with your gunfight, you better have one hell of an argument to explain why it happened. First Amendment. First Amendment. All right. Thank you, Mr. X, for helping bring about that talking point for the day, that bit of philosophical prepared mindness. Name Redacted checks in. He says, notice every road with these bastards leads to victimization and death of everyone who ain't them. If you're not us, you are nothing. If you're not with us, you're against us. I've heard that. That's an either or logical fallacy. If you're not with us, you're against us, meaning there's only two options. There's only two ways. But that's where we're being led to is there's only two ways to go. There's no more winning with a legitimate discussion, argument anymore. There's no two ways to look at it. There's one way, their way, or no way for you. It's coming. It seems like, and I hope, man, is everyone pretty riled up? I'm hoping it. Everyone fucking riled. Good. I did my fucking job for the day. I tell you what, I got everyone riled up at work. I did that yesterday too. I got everyone pissing vinegar and brimstone. It was great. I enjoy it. I want people hot under the collar, not to do violence or anything that is against a statute or a rule. You notice I've been saying statute and rule and not saying the word law anymore. I don't want anyone to violate any statutes or any rules or any ordinances or any codified crap. Those things have nothing to do with law. But I don't want you to violate any statutes or ordinances or rules, right? Words have meanings, very fucking specific meanings. Just like shall not be infringed. But I really thought the conversations were unique and eye-opening to discuss the notion and idea. And I want to say Steve's name, damn it, man, for bringing up and pushing the conversation point of maybe they're getting people's faces, their names, they're collecting data. Who is talking out against this? Because they want to do some more January 6th style roundups so they can intimidate and scare people, which caused me to say, well, are you a fucking martyr or are you going to get on your knees? Are you willing to be arrested? And beaten and sodomized and starved until you submit and admit that you committed some kind of a crime, like the January 6th protesters. Folks, there's still people in prison after 3 fucking years, or almost 3 years, whatever it is. Let's see, January 22, January 23, 2.5 years in jail, no trial, without crimes being pressed, charges being pressed. This is where we're at. Did you know that not one person has been charged with insurrection? Not one fucking person. Not one person has been charged with insurrection and found guilty. But I thought that's what it was easy and self-evident to see. Ask any left-wing liberal lunatic dumbass, and that's exactly what they're going to tell you happened. That was an insurrection if I ever saw one. Well, okay, it was mostly peaceful because I didn't see any flames. It was more peaceful than anything that happened in 2020. All right. Allow me to continue, if you will. Man, it's Chin Music again. He says, there are no limits to sexual perversion, abortion, and immigration. But there are limits to free speech and gun rights and due process, right? Yes, due process means if you're going to be arrested, you have to be arraigned, you have to be charged, and you have to go to trial. You can't be held indefinitely with those things being withheld from you, along with health, food, sanitary conditions, right? All these people being held in jail, they're being denied due process. That's right there in the Constitution. It's right there in the Declaration of Independence. And this is for Washington, D.C. That was old school middle finger style. Chin Music says, got it. You can be as perverted as you want. You can have as many abortions as you want. You can have as many illegal immigrants as you want. You can go to war over your money laundering and corrupt bullshit. Fine. But don't you dare use free speech, ask for your gun rights to be respected, or expect due process after they arrest your ass. If love is love, then speech is speech. Oh, don't forget hate. Boy, you say something they don't like, and it's because you got hate. And hate is now a crime. Hate is not a crime. I don't care if it's racist hate. It's not a crime. It's not a crime. Whether you speak out against Jews or blacks or whites or Asians or natives, it's not a crime. Hate is not a crime. Having disdain for somebody isn't hate. Having an objection against somebody is not hate. And even if you say, I hate you, it's not a fucking crime. There's no injured party. Now, if you say, I hate you, and then you club someone like a harp seal with a big chunk of wood, there's your crime. Saying I hate you is no crime, and it doesn't make the crime any worse. I mean, really, see, I'm gonna go bash someone on the head and steal their wallet, but I'm gonna tell them I love them when I do it, so it's not a hate crime. Does that make any sense? No, none of their bullshit makes any sense. Thanks for bringing it up, Chid. I appreciate it, man. There's no limits to them, and there are nothing but limits for you and I. Okay, I bet we've got more. I have a feeling. There it is, Orlando. We got more. He's got a statement. He says, looks like people are finally pushing back once they got word that there's another lockdown in the works, which panicked the left. Now they're going to double down and get more aggressive. Well, the lockdown, folks, it's not lockdown over what you think. It's lockdown over something else. But you know what the lockdown was about. Give me a moment. Need to get comfortable there. The lockdown. Joe Biden let us know that he's got his own special formula coming. Sheep vitamins. And it's going to work this time. And you're going to take it whether you like it or not. We've been told, oh, yeah. Love is in the air. There's an outbreak of love that's coming. Notice how tricky I am with my satire. There's an outbreak of love coming. And everyone is going to get their dose of good love. Right? In order to protect your identity, we're all going to have to wear masks when this lockdown of love comes. Now, that was like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we started hearing about it. Nurses were saying, hey, we're being trained and told. I got reports from different areas in the country that government was stocking up on love supplies. And then all of a sudden, it's quiet this last week. Not a word about it. Yeah, a couple of schools are saying that kids got to wear their love masks. But all of a sudden, it's quiet. Too quiet. Does that mean they're about to pull the trigger on the next lockdown of love? You know, because we got to save grandma. If we can just save one life, it'll be worth it. That's what they say, folks. If we can just save one life, it's worth it. It's worth you losing your job. It's worth you losing your retirement. It's worth the economy being destroyed. It's worth the entire supply chain being fucked up. It's worth sending, someone who's infected with love into a retirement home and, killing people with love and joy. Because I think these people really believe that what they're doing is loving and good. Anyways, folks, we got one hell of a show here. Thank you, Orlando, for your contributions and everyone else. Let's keep going. Mikey G says commies are doing the full court press, doing all they can before impeachment or the election of T-Man. The Trumposaurus Rex. If he gets into office, folks, there's going to be Rex everywhere. I want this to be well known as well. If Biden can manage to keep it together long enough, if he can avoid impeachment and still, be impeached and still run. I mean, hell, without campaigning, he won in 2020 against an extremely popular sitting president, Donald J. Trump, who at the time got more votes than any other sitting president had gotten and still lost to the most dynamic, interesting, charismatic leader, Joe Biden. Unfucking believable, folks. They're doing a full push, Mikey. Everything they're doing, none of this, folks, is better for America. Shutting down our energy systems, opening the border, sending all they can. I don't know if they sent it all, but sending all they can over to Ukraine for them to use and dispose of, fighting the Russian military meat grinder. Just send over their tanks and their armored personnel carriers and your Humvees and your MRAPs, and just send shit over there for the Russians to just destroy. If there's one thing that Ukraine is going to be, it's going to be rich in oxidized metal after all of that shit is burnt and twisted on the battlefield. And that's what's happening, folks. There's going to be a big steel wall between Ukraine and the new districts. They're doing all they can, folks. They're afraid Biden's going to be impeached. They're afraid that Kamala Harris isn't good enough. They would love to have, I don't know, martial law, a natural disaster, an incredible destruction of the system, something, so they don't have to allow an election. And now that's going to start as well. Well, they can't have an election, so this is more the thing we've been saying for the last 12 or 20 or 50 years is the president who's in that I don't like, he's gonna do something. I guarantee that he's gonna do something so he can stay in office and avoid the election. Hell, the Democrats said it about Trump. He'll do anything to stay in office. All of our fears, folks, they're coming true, and well, none of it's really happened. It's kind of weird how so much has happened, yet at the same time we go, well, why haven't they done it yet? We all thought that there'd be martial law and that America would fall apart and there'd be war in the streets, but none of that's happened. But hell, they've done everything else. It's quite a mess. I hope I have riled you up and made you think. I hope that all of these thoughts that were inside of you have bubbled up and you get to come to your conclusions, your decisions. Ooh, man, do I have another or can I wrap this up? Jane Dixon. Oh, yeah, she was there at the very beginning. Did anyone hear Biden did another executive order banning rail from delivering oil and gas? Jane, I have not heard that at all. But then again, I wasn't looking over in the energy sector today. No, I have no comment on that. But where I do have a comment is I hope you have come to the conclusion that you need to satisfy yourself. For me, it would be an awful and frightening experience to hear someone break down the door. And if I was woken from a sound sleep, which is not very often for me to have anymore, woken from a sound sleep, to know that I can either reach for my gun and know that I'm going to die for it, or leave the gun on the table and be arrested and know the pain and suffering that I would be in for, because pre-dawn raids aren't to deliver good news. It's got to be just an awful situation to find yourself in. And I do not romanticize it one bit, but I think about what it would be like, because I have watched police footage of it. They all come in screaming and yelling at the top of their lungs, cussing at you, shouting at you, telling you to do exactly what they say as you get contradictory orders from one to the other. As they get themselves all riled up, they're completely amped up on coffee, Monsters, and Monster Energy drinks, Red Bull. They're just wound up to the T on adrenaline, and they're looking for an excuse to pull that trigger. You make one move and they'll just fucking riddle you to death. You're not going to have a fun trip. It's not like the movies where they send in Samuel L. Jackson as the negotiator to come sit down on your couch and talk to you. Why don't you turn yourself in? You know, how much more would that make fucking sense, folks? Wouldn't it be smarter to send an intelligent, level-headed police officer? John, does John live here? I'd like to talk to John. Hey, Fred, does Fred live here? I'd like to talk to Fred. Michael, I'm Officer Smith. Can we have a talk? Would you mind if I came in, or we can just sit outside here and just talk about some stuff? I got some questions for you. Right, the police are interested in knowing. Right, we have this evidence against you, and we find that, you know, charges might be pressed. You know, what do you think? Think you should come downtown? Instead, they don't let anyone know that anything's going on until it's time to arrest you, as if you were Hitler or Genghis Khan or, I don't know, Freddy Krueger, Freddie Mercury, some kind of drop dead Fred. You know, they treat people like they're animals, worse than animals. You see anyone like hurt an animal and they throw a fucking fit. They see someone put a boot to a Republican and they cheer. Folks, it's a fucked up world, and chance favors the prepared mind. I sure hope you're ready. And I want to thank you. Share this video. And for anyone who's not a subscriber, you better subscribe. And thank you to everyone for supporting us through PayPal, Venmo, and CashApp donations, as well as supporting us through your donations as members at the club, on YouTube, Subscribestar, and for participating in the zoo. It does pay the bills and make sure we can keep doing this. Thank you again. You guys are awesome. Hey, and chance favors the prepared mind. Aren't you glad you're an American and you know what you know? Godspeed.